Do you have something inspiring to say? Have you always known that your voice can contribute to the world? Is now the time? Yes, now is the time. The world is waiting for you. Welcome to the Inspired Choices Network Open Mic Spotlight Show. Today, we have an inspiring guest who is ready to share their voice with the world. Now, on to the show.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so very much for joining me today. I have another inspiring guest who I am so excited to share with the world. And, I've known this person for a while, probably in other lifetimes as well. And I love doing these open mic spotlight shows because I get to dive in deeper with these individuals that I can have the pleasure of calling my personal friends, many of them, and I also get to learn more about them. So I'm excited to see where we're going to go today with the one, the only Donnielle Carter. So Donnielle is my guest today. She is a unique, exciting speaker that I have made get out of bed far too friggin' early this morning. So thank you, Donnielle, so much for pulling your butt out of bed when you would have rather stayed covered up.
Well, it's cold and I have flannel sheets.
That just explains it all. How does it get any better than that? The really great news is right after this interview, you can go right back into those beautiful flannel sheets if you choose. You can think of me, you can think of me as one of your cats just annoying you. Just another one. So before we dive in with the questions, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Donnielle Carter. Donnielle has spent most of her life ignoring her body, living only in her mind. She was a successful radio producer and TV promotion manager and was finding no satisfaction in her job or the life that she had created. She's often heard saying the world was not a better place at the end of the day because of what I have done. She went in search for more. Through her mother's Health Talk radio show, she was introduced to the tools of Access Consciousness and Right Body for You and found the more that she was looking for. And much to her delighted surprise, the more included discovering her body and the joy it could be once again. Using simple to implement tools, her life and body changed dramatically and fast. Changing the energy behind those everyday thoughts and behaviors freed her from what had previously been keeping her from creating what she desired. Once, and I do say once, extremely shy, Donnielle has now co-authored the international best-selling book, Right Body for You, hosts her own weekly radio show right here on the Inspired Choices Network, and travels the world speaking and facilitating transformative classes, including her popular Right Body for You workshops. Welcome, Donnielle Carter, officially. Donnielle,
wow, she sounds neat.
She does kind of sound neat. I bet you she sounds neat when she gets some coffee into her, too. You know what? That is a fabulous, that is a wonderful, wonderful introduction to you, but that is by far not the breadth and the depth of who you are and what you contribute in the world. Okay, FYI, sarcasm alert. This will be a sarcastic interview. That is one of Donnielle's total potent capacities in sarcasm.
I know. I used to keep all of this stuff in my head, and now it just comes out.
Well, I think it's much more fun when it comes out of you.
It really is.
So,
thanks,
the world
Christine. Thanks for having me on in the morning.
Oh, boy. The world is a better place when you open up and bring more of you into the world. And yes. Donnielle, let's talk about your journey, because while that was gave us some insight into this, let's really talk about your journey. Where did you grow up? How did all of this really? I mean, as a child, you weren't hiding and wishing that, or thinking that the day was not better because of what you contributed, right? did that start from the first moment you can remember, or was it later on in life?
It was later on in life. It was really interesting. You asked real quickly where I grew up, and that's a dang good question because I moved a lot. Usually when people say, where are you from? I'm like, all over the West Coast of the United States. Because at the age of 10, my parents divorced, and then I moved about every 2 years of my life after that, basically forever. And now my stuff stays in one place, and I constantly move, which that works too. But, as a kid, before the age of 10, you asked me if I thought I wasn't making the world a better place when I was a kid, and it's like I didn't have that when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I was one of those weird kids who actually had thoughts of like, oh, that's right, I'm supposed to be a kid right now. Or I remember walking out the front door one time and seeing the world and like, oh, well, there's a whole big other world out here, I remember really interesting thoughts as a kid. And the world was fun to explore and see, and it wasn't until right before the divorce, which, people say, oh, well, you're getting older, that's when insecurities and weirdness creeps in. And what was truthfully, if I look back upon that, is, one of the things we talk about a lot with Access and Right Body for You is you're very aware and you don't give yourself credit for it. Mm. And so what's interesting is during those years of like being 9 years old leading into this divorce, and I was having all these weird thoughts of being sad or insecure or not knowing what to do or where to go or if my friends like me. Because remember, I had this really weird birthday party, and I'm like, I don't even know if my friends like me. They're here for my birthday. Do they just want the cake? I had all these really weird thoughts. And now having these tools of you're more aware than you give yourself credit for, I look back, I went, oh, wait a minute. It might have been my mom and dad. Do they like me? Oh. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And without these tools that I wish we had been given when we were born, of course, I thought as a 9-year-old all of these thoughts were mine. And so it was really interesting how that shaped many years of my life through the rest of my life with that. So it's really interesting. I look back upon that and I'm like, oh, I wonder if they like me. It wasn't mine. Because my dad was freaking out, right? I don't know if my wife likes me anymore. Which, by the way, folks, it wasn't. She didn't. that was part of it.
He was aware, and you were aware of what he was aware of.
Yeah. Wow.
So you've traveled all over, you've lived all over, you've had lots of experiences, and now you're in. I'm guessing you're like a teenager right now, and this is when you've started to retreat. Is that correct? You've started to pull back, believing that other people don't like you or your contribution isn't valuable. Is this when it started to occur?
Actually, it was pretty much exactly at the age of 10 when my parents got divorced and I started moving. Because I moved from Colorado to California, the home of insecurities. And being the very aware child I was, I started thinking I was fat. And I look back upon myself and I wasn't. I was a kid, right? I was 10 years old. I wasn't fat. But I started thinking I was fat. My sisters were teenagers because there's 6 and 8 years between me and my closest siblings. And so they were in the midst of new school, new whatever, and am I pretty enough? Am I thin enough? And so I started, picking up on all of that too. And so I thought I was fat, and then growing up during that didn't really help because let me give a brief introduction to my family. I am 5'2" on a good day. Some days I'm 5'4", but that's another conversation. But basically, I'm 5'2", and at 5'2", I am the tallest girl in my family. My mom's 4'9", and everybody else, all the daughters and nieces and everything in between us in size. There's only like 3 of us that are over 5 foot for the women. And so my mom and my sisters, my 2 sisters who we lived with, they weren't over 5 foot tall. Okay. At 5'2", I was towering over them. And so they would wear a size 0. And then they would freak out if they would wear a size like 1 or 2, right? Mm-hmm. And I was wearing a size 3 and 5 simply because I had a good 6 inches of height on some of these people, right? I had a different body structure, but I didn't have the capacity to look at that and go, well, of course they're different body structure. All I could pick up on is I'm so fat. And from that moment was born the fat girl in the family, because even though I wasn't fat at the time,
right,
and we can get into the tools about working with your body, but my body went, fat, we can do that, here we go. And then I spent, basically the rest of my life looking at myself as the fat girl, which was, especially in the family. Yeah.
Wow. I've never heard anybody say that. What did you call California? The state
Home of insecurities.
Home of insecurities. Yeah. Never heard of that one before, but it is so relevant. Like the way that everybody's walking around, and that's where their value lies, is within their body. So much so mm-hmm. of it, and to be kind of so malleable at that age that you would pick all of that up. I never knew that. You've never told me that one before, so that kind of, it just is making a lot more sense. So
yeah, let me do a disclaimer. It's not all of California, but the parts I moved to, yeah,
right,
San Diego, right. LA, oh yeah.
And, let's hope that things have evolved definitely over the last 20 to 30 years, that people are starting to step into more awareness around all of this. I mean, I do know that is happening all over the world, that it's changing, and there's still a lot of that going on. Absolutely. What I'd like to get to, and we're going to go for a quick break, but I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to look at it before we do that, is, Donnielle, tell me, what is inspiration to you?
Living a life you enjoy that makes somebody else ask a question and ponder the possibilities for more.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Didn't know that was in there. Thanks for asking me a question.
I really like that. Wow, it's very cool. I like how you're so surprised. What I love about this is asking these questions, even though these hosts, what I'm doing right now is interviewing all of the hosts on the network, and while all of these hosts speak about these topics all of the time, they're not prepared for that question, and the responses have been fabulous. So thank you so much for your contribution there. I'm going to really
hope somebody wrote it down.
We will definitely get it, not to worry. So we're going to definitely get that, and we're going to go for our first break of the Spotlight show here today. We are talking with none other than the Donnielle Carter on the Inspired Choices Network. We will be back right after this short commercial break, where we will ask her more provocative questions. Stay tuned, everyone.
Do you have something inspiring to say? Would you like a taste of being one of our inspired hosts? Get on the air on the Inspired Choices Network Open Mic Spotlight Show. The Open Mic Spotlight Show is your time to shine and inspire our global audience. Shows air at 9 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday each week. Claim your spot today. Simply contact our network owner at info@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Forget the days of 5 minutes of fame. Now you can have 55 minutes of fame.
The life and the body you secretly hope for is possible. Somewhere you know that, right? What if creating that body and life is not about deprivation and sacrifice? Would you be willing to choose it? What if it could be as simple as changing how you look at things? Right Body for You with Donnielle is a different kind of radio show. Each week, Donnielle invites you to you. She shares simple tools that you can use immediately to create changes in your body and your life. Something different begins now. Listen for Right Body for You every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
You are listening to the Open Mic Spotlight Show here on Inspired Choices Network. To call in and ask questions, call 815-880-8255 in the U.S., 613-800-8736 in Canada, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. Now back to the show.
Woohoo! All right, here we are. We are with Donnielle Carter on the Open Mic Spotlight Show, and we're having some fun in the chat room. If you've never joined us, come on over to InspiredChoicesNetwork.com, click on the chat room at the top, and grab yourself a name, come in and play. So while we were at break, Donnielle and I were back and forth, and I had said something to her about what inspiration was to her that surprised her, and she says, yep, that's me, energy's bitch. So it's so true. So Donnielle, tell all of our amazing listeners, we're going to kind of jump around here a little bit, what does being energy's bitch mean to you?
Well, it is, and it's fun. I said that sarcastically one day on the radio, and I'm like, actually, that really kind of reads, and so it's kind of stuck. And for me, what it is, because the work I get to do, the fun, when I get to travel the world, helping people with their bodies, their lives, doing the radio show, helping people with their bodies and live sessions, everything. Excuse me. One of the things I really love that really changed my life was acknowledging the energy all around us. And the energy takes on different forms. It can be thoughts, feelings, and emotions, like I was picking up on my parents or my siblings are in California. Or it could be, different scenarios. But when you acknowledge that, you become aware of this energy, because it's all around us. It's part of that consciousness, that oneness that we all be. And when you, because even the simplest form, you can walk into a room and know somebody's pissed off and not know that they're pissed off, but you're like, something's wrong with the Force, Luke, like in Star Wars, right? And this is what we're talking about. It's that energy. Somebody, that when we say somebody throws a rock and the ripples go out from there, the thought, feelings, and emotions we do with energy, that's those ripples of those energies. And so when you start to become aware of these energies, you open yourself up. I don't even like saying open yourself up, but you just become aware of all of them around you. And so you can know things and say things that you don't cognitively know on a thinking level. A lot of this is getting out of your thinking and getting into your knowing, because you can know everything. You may not be able to think about it, but you know everything. And so the more I acknowledge these energies and that I'm willing to perceive them, receive them, and talk about them, I do what I call being energy's bitch, or access Tourette's, where it's just you open your mouth and these amazing things come out. And I'm like, hey, that was cool. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the energy, that oneness, that consciousness that we all are. So when you ask me, it's like, well, what is, inspired to you? I didn't think about it. I didn't sit there and think, okay, well, I'm on a radio show and I need to sound like I know what I'm talking about. I need to sound like an intelligent person and articulate and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, okay, open my mouth, let the energy flow, and see what comes out of that. It's like, what does oneness and consciousness desire to contribute to this radio show this morning that my mouth and body can be contribution to? And so for me, that's energy's bitch, is being able to go, what is inspired? Living a life that you enjoy, that, I can't remember what the rest of it, Eleanor got it, that something to inspire someone to ask a question for possibilities for more. And I'm like, okay, cool, thanks.
Right.
So, and that's me as energy's bitch, is just being able to interpret those energies and speak to them, really.
Okay. So the word that just popped was interpret. How does one learn to interpret energy?
Well, honestly, it's going to be one of the scariest things for a lot of people, that, including me. The first step to really interpreting energy is trusting yourself. Trusting, right? I'm telling you. People are like, okay, here comes the great wisdom. Trust myself. What? Yes. But that is truly what it is. It's like the more I trusted myself, the more, we have those things all the time of like, oh, it was just a coincidence that I was thinking about my mom right before she called. Oh, isn't that funny? Or, oh, isn't that a coincidence that I was thinking about going to the eye doctor and then I woke up the next morning with an eye infection? Oh my gosh, it's such a coincidence. You know what? It's not. It's your awareness of the energy. It's you and your body interpreting the world around you and giving you this information. So when you really start to learn to trust yourself and go, that wasn't a coincidence, it's not something else, it's me, and learn to trust that and not doubt yourself, that's the first step into actually really becoming aware of this energy, is acknowledging that you knew, trusting that you know, and then the next step, which is also scary, is what's required, or what do I do, or what's up with this? Okay, I got this information, now what? Sometimes it's just information, sometimes you're required to do things. But that's the first step, really, is trusting yourself, which is where a lot of people falter, because we're not taught in this world to trust yourself. Trust other people, doubt yourself,
Yeah.
Funny, it's true.
It is completely true. I know for myself, when I started on this road of stepping into awareness, it was through a spirituality group. And, we were talking about clairsentience, claircognizance, all of the clairs. And what I completely, from the minute I started to take that course, I'm like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. This is the mantra that was running through my head. And everybody else in the group would be saying, well, this is what I got. Well, this is what I got. And because I didn't get what they got, I was like, well, I suck at this. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't do this. I can't do this. And I took that course, like I was in this group for probably 2.5 years. And that is seriously what went on the whole time. And they would constantly say, Christine, you do know. And I was adamant. Donnielle. I do not know.
Yep.
And when I started to, maybe relax on that a little bit, what I started to perceive, which I didn't know, in my head it was like, you're making this shit up, Christine. You're full of crap. Come on. You're daydreaming. Like, this is you're nuts. And I mean, I can laugh about it today.
Well, that last one may still be true, folks.
Shush, this is supposed to be about you, not me. Anyways.
It reads for me, too. It's okay.
Yeah, but I was literally like, there is no way what I am perceiving can be true. And then when I was perceiving that the thoughts that would come in would be negative thoughts about a person, I would be like, you are so judgmental, Christine. You are such. I would use bitch in a different way, right? I would be ridiculing myself in my mind, and then I was like, I can't do this, right? So as I began to step into it, I wanted to run away from it. Did you experience this, or have you seen other people in this way?
Yes, and yes. Because what's funny in this world is the second you start going, oh no, I trust myself. Oh well. Or even speaking up, and, I don't care if you're a woman or a man, but if you start speaking up and you start going, well, this is what I think is going on, and you do with any level of, assurance, like, I know this, a lot of times people could go, ooh, who do they think they are? Know-it-all bitches, hello, and you're like, okay, I don't know anything, you're right. And we start backing down. You know, and I'm not saying to say it with a pompous, but, you know, has anybody in the show ever said, oh, well, I think it's this way? You can't know that. Well, but why don't we try it? Who are you to think this way, you know? But what's interesting is, you know, how I talked about at the beginning with, you know, I started picking up on my mother and father's, I got to get out of here. I wonder if they like me. Part of this receiving information is picking up on thoughts, feelings, emotions of other people, right? And so, Christine, like you were saying, of that, oh, I thought a judgment of that person. What's interesting is with, you know, one of my favorite tools from Access is who this belonged to, is most of the time, those people are thinking their judgments about themselves. We pick it up, so we think we're judging them. But when in reality, we're just becoming aware that they're judging them. And then we go, I am such a bitch. I'm a horrible person. See, I can't do this. I don't know anything. And then we start to shift and change it. So, yeah, I did all of that. And really this tool of who it belonged to and the trusting that we're picking up on other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotion actually helps me ask another question. Like, if I think, I'm like, oh, my gosh, you know, one of my favorite tools that I will share is, you know, if I think of judgment of somebody or myself or I'm doubting anything, I will actually ask myself, truth, what part of this is judgment and what part of this is awareness? Because when people are first starting to learn to trust themselves, one of the things I really discovered for me and for other people through classes and sessions is that they have this awareness, like somebody's being a major snothead, just being mean, right? And we go, oh my gosh, they're being so mean. And you go, oh my gosh, I'm judging, I'm such a bad person. And so they dismiss all of the information that was given to them, okay? So when you ask another question like, what part of this is judgment, what part of this is awareness, you start to differentiate and learn to trust yourself, because what often goes on is exactly what I said, but let's break it down. Oh my gosh, they're being so mean, I'm a horrible person, right? So what happens is you receive the information, who knows, maybe they're kicking a dog. They are being mean, okay? That's just a fact.
Right.
They're being mean. And so we go, oh my gosh, they're being mean. Awareness. They're being mean. They could be the energy of mean, whatever that is, right? Whether it's kicking a dog or something, judging themselves. They could be mean, whatever that energy is. And then we go, oh my gosh, that's so wrong that they're doing that. Judgment. So we have this judgment on top of this awareness. And because we're like, well, we don't want to be judgy snotheads, we throw away the entire awareness as well, right? Then you know, I have a mild theory that this is where some of the atrocities in the world come up, because it's like we, you know, see somebody kicking a dog and they're like, oh, we're so mean, and they shouldn't be doing that. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't be judging them, and so I'm just going to throw everything away. And oh, look, nothing's happening. Whereas it's like, no, the awareness is there being this mean energy. Our judgment may be that's so wrong or that's so right. You know, it's not only the negative things that are judgments.
Yes.
And so when we don't ask that question of like, oh, is part of this awareness, is part of this judgment, we throw everything away. And then we start to doubt ourselves. We start to not be the gift of the world. We start to not take action or do things because we're in that doubt mode because we judged our awarenesses. So when you ask a simple question like, part of this judgment, part of this awareness, you start to differentiate and you build that trust in yourself, and then you can get rid of the judgment as well. So it's pretty fun. It's a simple tool, but it's quite potent when you're willing to be vulnerable with it and use it.
I really appreciate that. And I know that I've heard you say this before, but there's something about the way you've explained it this morning that's landing even more. It's fabulous.
Me too. Energy's bitch. Thank you. Even as I'm saying this, I'm like, hey, cool.
Hey, that was good. Okay, so I am we're gonna go for our second break, and when we come back, we actually have a caller on the line who has a question for us. So Stay tuned, everybody. You are listening to the Open Mic Spotlight Show here on Inspired Choices Network with our amazing, the one, the only Donnielle Carter. When we get back, more insight with Energy's Bitch. Stay tuned, everybody.
Do you have something inspiring to say? Would you like a taste of being one of our inspired hosts? Get on the air on the Inspired Choices Network Open Mic Spotlight Show. The Open Mic Spotlight Show is your time to shine and inspire our global audience. Shows air at 9 a.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday each week. Claim your spot today. Simply contact our network owner at info@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Forget the days of 5 minutes of fame. Now you can have 55 minutes of fame.
The life and the body you secretly hope for is possible. Somewhere you know that, right? What if creating that body and life is not about deprivation and sacrifice? Would you be willing to choose it? What if it could be as simple as changing how you look at things? Right Body for You with Donnielle is a different kind of radio show. Each week, Donnielle invites you to you. She shares simple tools that you can use immediately to create changes in your body and your life. Something different begins now. Listen for Right Body for You every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m. Mountain, and 11 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
You are listening to the Open Mic Spotlight Show here on Inspired Choices Network. To call in and ask questions, call 815-880-8255 in the U.S., 613-800-8736 in Canada, or Skype us at Inspired Choices Network. Now back to the show.
Welcome back, and thank you everyone for joining us, whether you're listening live, listening in the replay, playing with us in the chat room. We are so grateful that you are here. And today I am speaking with Donnielle Carter, who is an amazing woman who is creating so much fun and so much awareness in the world, and especially during this conversation. So if you didn't hear the beginning of this conversation, please go back and listen to it, because she's definitely been a contribution to me for sure, and I know she can be to many others. Now, Donnielle, before we take our caller, I just want to ask you, what are you creating in the world, and where can people connect with you to learn more? And, you know, maybe they would like to work with you one-on-one or come to one of your classes. So please, can you enlighten all of our listeners?
Thanks for asking. So much is going on. This is going to be a fun year. Probably the best way to find me is my website, Donnielle.com, DONNIELLE.com, 2 N's, 2 L's. And I have numerous Right Body for You workshops all over the world, literally all over the world. I love my life. As well as some of the Access Consciousness 3-day body classes, where we really, the Right Body for You workshops are so much fun. We really delve into the contribution that your body can be to your life, and from there, both your body and your life can change, which is really neat. We get to see the other side of things, shift some judgments. We talk about money, we talk about sex, we talk about eating. It's really fun to see what comes up with this. And one of my favorite things that we get to talk about a lot is looking at the energy behind the words that we use and how that is creating our lives and our bodies. To really get clear, words are a great tool, and it's really fun to help get the awareness of how we're using these tools. Are we using it to create what we desire, or are we using it to not create what we desire, or,
right,
or to create what we don't desire, speaking of words. And so Donnielle.com is probably the best place to find out all of that. And, and check it out, because, there's some products on there, and there's also a lot of free stuff, audio, past radio shows, even past classes, video classes that are just for free that you can watch on there, as well as some little videos that I do all the time. And I have a telecall coming up. Whoever thought of that, thank you. It's called Shattering the Lie of Body Image, and it starts February 8th. And this is kind of a sequel to a pop-up call I did, because every once in a while, being Energy's bitch, a topic pops up and says, do a call on this. I'm like, okay, so I did a one call on it called Shattering the Lie of Body Image. We had over 100 people on there, and it was just touching the surface. And it was like, well, how could you create your life in your body if you weren't trying to fit it into, like, California standards, like we were talking about earlier. And so it's I'm really excited to see what this 4-part series creates, building on the past call, which if you weren't on that past call and you sign up for this one, you get that call as well. So really it's 5 calls for 4, so it's pretty neat. So you can check that out on Donnielle.com as well. Yeah. Right.
Cool. And okay, so and you're also on Facebook, you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, you're all over the place.
I am.
Okay, cool. All right, so we have a caller waiting to ask a question. I believe we have Lisa on the line. Lisa, welcome to the show. What question do you have for Donnielle?
Good morning, ladies. Yes.
Good morning.
I do. Good morning. Donnielle, I have been in the same access as you, and so one of the things that we talk about is expanding out. And you were talking about the power of words. Could you just sort of speak to that, expanding out, because it sort of throws a wedgie in my universe, because part of me does the exercise of expanding the energy out, and yet sometimes I'm wondering if my body thinks that that's supposed to happen.
So let me give a little background, folks. What she's talking about is there's this activity we have at Access called expanding out, because so often what happens as we do this reality, we're taught to things like circle the wagons, contract within yourself, or pull it all in and take stock and go out from there. And so what we're discovering, really looking with these energies, is that when you are contracted, which is what this reality tells us, first off, we cut off awareness of things. Because if you're looking through a keyhole, you only see part of what's going on. So when you're contracted, you see part of what's going on. And so if you're willing to be expanded, what that means is your awareness is in full capacity. But when you're doing that, it's like you're standing on top of the tallest mountain and you can just see everything that's going on around us. So this is kind of the activity that she's talking about, is like not to get in that contracted state, but to go out and be expanded energetically, awareness, so you can perceive everything. So that, just to give a little background before I ask Lisa a question. And I'm going to ask you a brilliant question, Lisa. Ready? I know sometimes it's really hard, these questions. All right, so what freaks you out about this? Truth.
Well, I'm just not interested in expanding my body out.
Right? So everywhere you've misidentified, misapplied you as your body, and your body is you, destroy it and create it?
Certainly, yes.
Okay. What else?
I can't even put it into words, except,
See, and that's the fun thing about all this energy, you guys, is sometimes we don't have the words for it. I'm a big wordsmith. I love words. I talked about that earlier. But sometimes it's just an energy. And sometimes that energy is literally the energy of a roadblock or limitation that we've created for ourselves. So, Truth, are you willing to see what's beyond that, become aware of what's beyond that, or do you like that limitation roadblock?
No, I don't like the limitation. That's why it is a bit of a roadblock, and I'd like to clear it.
Cool. So everywhere you created that as a survival mechanism, destroy it, uncreate it?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Cool. And what we're kind of doing is part of what the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement and tools are. Okay, if you want to learn more about that, the full scope of it, go to theclearingstatement.com. Okay, so truth, Lisa, if you were in your full awareness, what would occur?
I would be
Can you guys start to perceive some of that energy? Huh?
I just sense space.
Okay. And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
No, that's a great thing.
Okay. That was the thinking answer. Truth. Really get the energy. Really, and all of you, not just Lisa, but get that energy. What would being space, what would being expanded out with of and being able to be aware of everything? Anybody else freak out about that a little bit, going, oh my gosh, I would know too much, and that's just kind of the worst thing. It's safer down here when I only know 13%. And I'm not saying that's what you're doing, Lisa, but somebody is out there.
That's okay. I don't have words for it. That's it's
cool. Yeah.
This is bizarre.
And I know, and I'm using Lisa for some of this because I know as people listen to this later, different things are going to come up for different people. But, one thing I really have experienced as people do this is like, well, if I'm aware of too much, that would be bad. Okay. Which I know we're only having a certain amount of time, and that's a whole other discussion about can an infinite being be overwhelmed? Because, again, it's a judgment. It's kind of that same awareness and judgment. We can be aware of everything, and then we judge. If we have too much information, it would be overwhelming. So everywhere we've decided, concluded, and agreed with this reality that knowing too much is a bad thing. Would you all be willing to destroy and uncreate that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the body part, Lisa, because I know there was a lot of energy on it when you first asked about that. Mm-hmm. What's interesting with this activity, a lot of people, one of the favorite things I do in my Rep Body Free workshop is actually talk about this. So thanks for bringing it up. Is a lot of people think when you expand out, that you expand out of your body. Okay? And a lot of people think the only way to take your body with you is to make your body bigger. A lot of people do this, okay? And so when we expand out, we're not actually expanding out of our bodies. A lot of people think we are. But I don't know about you, but has anybody seen ever somebody actually expand completely out of their body? Because that's called death, and the bodies look really different. So trust me, you're always connected to your body a little bit more than you give yourself credit for. And sorry, maybe it was too early to mention the D word, but because it was interesting energy that came up with a lot of people on that. And so what you're doing when you're expanding out is you're expanding out so you have more awareness of what's going on. And your body is actually one of the greatest tools of awareness, okay? Your body is something very sensitive. And I don't mean like, oh, she's such a sensitive person, or your skin is sensitive to the touch, don't touch me, which some people may react like that anyway. But your body is so sensitive that it's constantly picking up on the shifts and changes of the awareness of energy and all that kind of stuff around us, and constantly giving you information in so many different ways. And so what's interesting is when we do this expand out activity, a lot of people think we're expanding out from our body, but we're not. Why would you expand out from something that gives you information, which is actually what you're asking for in that expand out activity? So when I have people do this expand out activity in the Right Body for You workshops, I ask people to expand out and maintain a connection to their body and actually allow the space in their molecules to expand as well. Because if you guys have noticed, every time you are being, be more aware or focus, what actually happens to your body? You know, most people get tight. Some people even hunch over, and like you actually contract a little bit in your body and you get tense, right? So during that expanding out activity, what you're doing is you're actually inviting the space back into your body. For some people, that's as simple as sitting up, taking a breath, and releasing the tension in their body. And that is expanding out your body, is just going, just basic at the base level with words is releasing the tension in your body. And then from that, your body is able to be aware of more as well and give you information, which is what that first expanding out activity is all about, is giving you more information about the world going on around you. And is this making sense at all? I feel like I'm throwing a lot of information out really quickly because I'm aware of the time.
Yes. You're not aware of my brain at all. Donnielle doesn't read my brain at all. Okay, we do have just about 8 minutes left in the show, and this is fascinating. I'm really enjoying this. Lisa, thank you so much for this question, and I think that there's a lot more here that we can be speaking to as well. Donnielle, you are on the radio live today. You have your show at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do you know what the topic is today? I don't have it off the top of my head. I can go look for it, but
I do. I knew you were going to ask me. It's called "Are You Using Judgment to Get Out of Judgment?" Are you using judgment to get out of judgment? So that is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. Will this be what will this also be included in the conversation today? Might this pop up as well, that people can get more information?
Yes.
Well,
that was a question.
It was a question, because, obviously we're talking about judgment and how we use judgment to get out of judgment and, or try to get out of judgment. And I always have what's fun is we're talking about being energy's bitch, and we always have a few, I always have a few little tidbits that we're going to chat about. And then from there, I follow the energy. And so if this is something that's up today, trust me, it's going to come up. But every time I've tried to plan out my shows, it's not fun and it goes nowhere. Right. So being energy's bitch, we see where it goes. So when you say, is it going to be part of it? Maybe. Yes.
Maybe it could pop up. Lisa, how is that landing for you?
Yeah, that actually, it was what Donnielle said about it was something to do with the molecules expanding, but asking the body to go be part of that. I forget exactly how you. It was something. And
you don't have to expand your body to be bigger, just space in it. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's still something there for me, and so I'll listen in today.
Perfect. Thank you so much for calling in, Lisa, and participating. I appreciate it so much. So before we end the show today, I do have a couple more questions for Miss Carter. So, Donnielle, can you tell me what is important to you in the world?
Well, I can tell you what's important to my cat right now is feeding her because she's sitting on my desk staring at me. What's important for me in the world is to be a contribution to the world, and it's a world of where people don't judge themselves, and basically where in that not judging themselves, they're not idiots and mean to other people. It's a place, and it's not like, oh, utopia and everybody just, and only good things happen, but it's like, how much better would the world be if we were looking out for all of us and not just ourselves? So,
yeah, there's so much more in the not judging ourselves. How much it does make ourselves and our lives and our moments easier, and yet it is a massive, massive gift to everyone around us, and the world moving in a much more generative direction. We say this, I hear a lot of people being involved with Access as well, Donnielle, I hear a lot of people say this all the time. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge yourself. And it's nearly like you can get the energy of how I'm saying it. It's nearly like a flipping, hey, when you say good morning to people, if you were walking through an office, good morning. And people aren't present with it, right? They're just just saying it. Well, that's how I feel a lot of the times when I'm hearing people or seeing people write this. It's like, yeah, don't judge yourself. And it's like a flippant comment. And yet it is I think you could do a whole teleseries for a very, very long time on that alone. We don't really realize how much of a change we can be creating in the world, really, really creating in the world when we're not judging ourselves.
Well, and what's funny is when we do this, don't judge yourselves, we start to go into judgment to try to figure out how we are judging or not judging or how well we're not judging. And so that's part of actually what my show is about later today is I hear that so many times, well, how do I stop judging without judgment? Because then I have to judge if I'm judging, right? Screw it, I judge,
Oh, yeah. My God. Brain twist. I need more coffee.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, that is awesome. Okay, I can't wait for your show today. And maybe we'll have Coke beside me or wine. I'm not sure. Donnielle, the last question that all our listeners really do want to hear is, Donnielle, what is your message for 2017?
Laugh and have fun.
What?
Honestly. I know. It's like, oh, yeah, whatever. But, it's true. So many people don't laugh enough. One of the things that I do in my private sessions, my classes, my radio show, and you started off the show today talking about my sarcasm, is, one of your body's favorite activities is actually laughing. And laughing can change so much. Not laughing at yourself, because that's being self-bullying, and that's a whole other subject. But if you can find the amusement in things tend to start to change. And so if I could do one message for 2017 is laugh and have fun. Because, more things got changed in the world by having fun than being serious. And even somebody who's like thrilled about a discovery, they're having fun. So if I could say one thing, laugh, have fun.
I love it.
Whatever that looks like.
Whatever that looks like. And if you would like to laugh and have fun and play in the world with Donnielle Carter, you can find her online. And you have an amazing event coming up later this year. We've just got a minute.
Yes.
I would love for you to talk about it.
I know. I heard you think about it after I talked about the other classes. I'm like, oh crap! Can we talk about that after the end of the show? Yes. It's called Right Body for You: The Tools in Action, and I am so excited about this. Just really quickly, what it is one of the things I hear, because I give all these amazing tools, and in the Right Body for You 2.5-day workshop with this manual. And people are like, great. And then they go home and they're like, I'm trying to use the tools, but I'm doubting. And, and all this kind of stuff, things come up. It's like, how do I use this tool? I'm not sure. And so what I have chosen to do for the first time in Access history, I'm so excited. It's taking the tools from a classroom setting out into the world. And so we're going to do all these fun activities in New Orleans. And, I'm going to be there and help you actually use the tools in real life settings. So very quickly, That was it, but there's more on my page.
Oh, just going to New Orleans is one of Donnielle's favorite places. I can't wait. Thank you, Donnielle, for getting up and for participating, and for everyone joining us. Have an amazing day, and for goodness sakes, laugh and have more fun. Bye for now, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Open Mic Spotlight Radio Show. We will be here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m. Central, 7 a.m. Mountain, and 6 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, continue to create you with joy and inspiration.